Greetings and salutations, fellow peasants. It's the 5th of November, 2025, and I am Thaddeus Satori. Today I'd like to share some thoughts on trigger words, specifically communism and capitalism. An economist of the last century, John Kenneth Galbraith, summarized the main difference pretty well. He said, "Under capitalism, man exploits man. Under communism, it's just the opposite. Yes, whatever you call it, we humans tend to exploit each other." It appears that most people who toss these words around don't have a clue as to what they really mean, but then that's not the point, is it? Divide and rule. They are meant to trigger an emotional response in the amygdala, the fear center of our brain, and override the prefrontal cortex, the rational part. Politicians and their mouthpieces use them to keep us peasants fighting each other over whether something is either black or white, when really, most things in life are different shades of gray. We need open dialogue because it's going to take everyone's input to meet the challenges we face. Right now, if anyone even mentions wealth inequality, he or she is immediately branded as a communist or socialist. End of discussion. I've been triggered, man. But what difference does the label make? If you have nowhere to live, can't feed your kids, pay your bills, or get medical treatment, or you're working 2 or 3 jobs and still can't make ends meet, do you really give a shit what the system is called? For me, the proof is in the pudding. Is the system working for we the people or not? For nearly all of recorded history, the ratio of rich to poor has hardly moved, about 10% haves and 90% have-nots. This has been the case under virtually all systems over our entire agricultural history. It was true in the Soviet Union and has been true in the US for most of our history. 10% haves, 90% have-nots, same ratio, different names. There was, however, a brief period in the US when the pendulum began to swing in favor of the peasants. It began after the Great Depression with the New Deal, continued after World War II with the GI Bill, though for some reason black veterans were often excluded. Wonder why that was. And it peaked in the mid-1960s with the Great Society. The marginal tax rate on the wealthy was around 90%, and corporate tax rate ranged from 40 to 53%. CEO pay was roughly 20 times that of the average worker, and union membership was around 30% of the workforce. An average American couple could buy a house, a car, and raise a family on a single income. But in the 1970s, the pendulum began swinging the other way. Lessons from the past had been forgotten in just a few generations. By 1980, the ruling class had come up with a coherent plan to claw back a larger share of the pie. Their first step was to get a B-movie actor elected to be their mouthpiece. I'm not saying Reagan was all bad. He valued the immigrant, saw the dangers of tariffs, and made some good moves in foreign policy. But he also cut funding for research and many social and environmental programs. You can have all the laws, protections, and programs you want, but if you don't pay for them, they're pointless. He broke the unions and convinced a lot of people that government was the problem. And of course, he sold us the idea of trickle-down economics. Give everything to the top and it will magically trickle down to the bottom. I thought I felt something on the back of my neck. Every president since has been working for the haves. Bill Clinton signed off on the repeal of the Glass-Steagall Act of 1933, the law that was meant to keep the trustworthy and definitely not coked-up geniuses on Wall Street from gambling away all our savings. George W. Bush wanted to turn Social Security over to the rich because they view it as just another pot of gold that they'd like to get their hands on. During the banking and housing crash of 2008, Barack Obama bailed out the very people who had caused the crisis instead of helping their victims. Now at the helm, we have a crazy billionaire who thinks that groceries is an old-fashioned term. He fired everyone who knows how to keep the trains running on time and replaced the people at the top with a bunch of faithful idiots. What do all these presidents have in common, you ask? They are all just imperfect humans who were put into power to do the bidding of the moneyed folk, for whom the idea of enough doesn't even register. The growing gap between the rich and poor has been on steroids since the 2010 Supreme Court ruling in favor of Citizens United. Under it, corruption of our government has become legal, unlimited, and secret. It's taken us 45 years to get here, but hey, at least it was bipartisan. I don't hate the rich, and I don't think they are all evil. I think that they are human, and we humans are not to be trusted, especially when it comes to money. It looks to me like they don't realize that they too need society, and they too will someday be dead and stinking, and the world will go on turning without them. Nobody is that important, and nobody gets out alive. Their insatiable greed, however, is going to get us all killed. They fail to realize that they are simply reserving the right to die last. I also don't believe that we humans are capable of some communist utopia in which everyone is equal. We are each uniquely programmed by things like health, economic situation, family, and culture, so of course we see the world differently. How could it be otherwise? The question to ask is, what kind of society do we want? Never mind the labels. Should we pool our resources and build water and sewer systems, roads and bridges, schools and hospitals? Should we take care of our veterans, the elderly, the mentally ill, and the weak? Or should we just let them starve to death or die homeless? Should millionaires and billionaires chip in to pay for the society that made them rich? How many millions of miles of road do you suppose Amazon uses in one day? Why is it that so many Walmart employees need food stamps? We peasants across the spectrum know in our guts that we are getting screwed, but it ain't by other poor people. We all want change. Hell, we elected Obama on hope and change and Trump on fear and change, and still here we are. It looks like change will have to come from the bottom. The first thing we need to do is get rid of these bloody trigger words and start listening to each other instead of dismissing out of hand. And if we are going to unite to improve things for everyone, we need to have everyone at the table, not just a select few. You know, democracy. So let's take in everyone's views, make compromises, and put some simple guardrails in place. Together we can create, as President Lincoln said, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. That means participation of the people. What are some changes you'd like to see? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Lord knows I can't think of everything. That's all for now. Thanks for listening. Cheers.